And welcome back, everyone. We hoped you enjoyed the break, and we hope you're enjoying all the event made possible thanks to our sponsors from the ISCB Student Council, the IMB, and also Needle. So now it's time for our last keynote lecture of the day. And it's really a great pleasure for me to introduce our last speaker, Dr. Laura Furlong, who's the Scientific Director of VIII Bioinformatics Solutions and a senior researcher at the Integrative Biomedical Informatics Group of the GRIB at Universidad Pompeu Fabra. And let me present the speaker a bit. So Dr. Laura Furlong obtained a PhD in biology from Universidad de Buenos Aires in 2002, and since then has been working in Barcelona, joining the Integrative Biomedical Informatics Group in 2007 as UPF Associate Lecturer. In her research, Dr. Furlong unravels the pathological mechanisms of human disease from a network perspective, and to do so, her group develops bioinformatic methods for network analysis and text mining and applies them to characterize disease and also adverse drug effects. And fruit of her work are over 80 scientific publications, and she has also directed 4 PhD theses, and she has also created the knowledge platform on disease genomics, DistiNet. And it also happens that DistiNet Plus is the flagship product of VIII Bioinformatics Solutions, the spin-off company that she co-founded in 2020 to provide genomic tools and know-how for precision medicine and pharmaceutical R&D. So welcome, Laura. We're really happy to have you here, and we're really looking forward to listen to your career seminar. So now the floor is yours, and whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Ines, very much for the invitation. It's a pleasure for me to be here. And well, I will first show my screen to set everything ready. So I guess this is fine. Yeah. I will turn off my camera for the presentation because my computer gets a little bit slow, and I will turn it on for the questions. Okay, so well, this Ines already did a good introduction to my profile. I will talk about in this talk about my career, my research interest, and some things that I have learned in the past, and I think would be useful for you, for people starting in academia, and also people thinking about starting in the private sector in the area of bioinformatics. So let's go. So, well, you already heard a little bit about my scientific interests, and I will tell you a little bit about my background in a minute. My current interests are really focused or framed in understanding human disease mechanisms from the perspective of genetics. So how genomic variants influence our phenotypes and ultimately disease, and also to understand how these genomic variants affect the function of proteins and how they interact between each other to ultimately lead to function and phenotype. And that's also why I'm also very interested in applying network sciences approaches to biology and in this context of human disease. And also I'm very interested in other research areas that I will talk you a little bit more in a minute. And one is text mining and text mining for biomedicine. So all these artificial intelligence approaches that you can use actually to extract information from free text. And by free text, I'm talking about scientific publications, but also any type of free text document that might contain information that is relevant for our field. And these are like clinical records from hospitals, and also different types of documents that contain information and are also recorded in different settings. And more lately, I'm also interested in the impact of the environment on human health and environmental chemicals and pollution, and how these interact with our genetic background to influence human health. And also, and lately, and this is reflected with my current position and the role in founding a spin-off company, to how to bring all these things that we do in the research setting more closer to real-world applications. So to continue with the presentation that Ines just had given about my career and what were my studies and so on. So I had a degree in biology. I studied I'm from Argentina, so I studied in the Universidad of Buenos Aires. I specialized in molecular biology. And then I obtained a PhD in biology from the VIII University, also in the same area. And then I moved to Spain, specifically to Barcelona, and I did a first postdoc at the Universidad Autónoma de Barcelona, working still at the wet lab. And then I completed or pursued further studies in bioinformatics. And that's where I really came into the work and the interest of bioinformatics for health. And after obtaining my degree in this master degree, I joined the research program of biomedical informatics, first as a postdoc and research associate, and later on in 2011, I had the opportunity to lead the integrative biomedical informatics group there, jointly with Ferran Sanz, that was at that time the director of the program. And later in 2020, with him and other colleague of our group, Janet Pinheiro, we co-founded the spin-off VIII Bioinformatics Solutions. So to explain you a little bit more why I entered in the biology degree and then moved to bioinformatics. So in fact, if I know that currently the students are, or many of them, and even the students that I have, they prepare these career plans and set their goals, where they want to go and what they want to achieve. In my case, I have to admit that I never did that. So in fact, I started the career of nutrition in the medical science university in Argentina. But after 1 month there, I realized that it was not what I really wanted to do. And actually one driving of this change was that during the preparatory course for the university, and also in the first year, I get to know this book, Molecular Biology of the Cell, and I really get really fascinated with molecular biology and how you actually can study the genetics and how proteins work within the cell, and how these actually drive function and influence the working of living systems. So I decided to quit my studies on nutrition, and I enrolled on the Faculty of Sciences at the university and started my degree on biology. And after finalizing it, I followed with I can do a doctorate, and I started working on molecular biology in a laboratory led by Dr. Mónica Vázquez Levin. at the research institute in Buenos Aires devoted to human health, where I was involved in a project that later on was my PhD project that was devoted to characterize and disentangle the role of a sperm enzyme that's named acrosin, and its role in the interaction between sperm cells and the human oocyte. So there in the lab, I did a lot of PCRs, recombinant protein expression, purification, and a lot of biochemical analysis to actually figure out if how this protein recognizes different polysaccharides from the human egg and pinpoint the residues in the protein that were involved, and also the important sugars in this interaction. So all this was, as you can see, wet lab experiments. And also I have to say that during my studies in the university, in the degree, and later on in my PhD, I never worked with computers. I started to work a little bit later in the late phases of my PhD with databases, but this is something that was not very well developed in Argentina at that time. And well, then I moved to Barcelona, and then I did my first postdoc, still on the wet lab, studying and trying to setting up a new system to detect protein-protein interactions in vivo in yeast cells that, well, actually didn't work out. And at that time, I really felt like, well, this was like a little bit struggling if pursuing my career in this area. And I started to think about trying new things. And one of the new things that I started trying was trying to learn how to code, how to write scripts, to access data sets and access databases. And these were my first steps in bioinformatics. And also I speak with several people here in Barcelona that were actually working in bioinformatics, and I arrived to the research program in biomedical informatics. Well, at that time, this PRBD building that you see here, that you may actually know, was not there yet. The institute was located in another building that is nearby, and I visited some of the researchers that were leading groups there, and they actually recommended me to maybe to study more, to get a kind of more experience in bioinformatics, to complement my expertise. And therefore I decided to enroll in a master studies for bioinformatics. And that's why I did. And there I also met Professor Ferran Sanz, that was actually the director of the program, of the research program by biomedical informatics in Barcelona. And I had also been very lucky that he allowed me to join his group when I finished my master, and I actually joined this group in 2005 and started working with him. So this was a little bit how I transitioned from a wet lab scientist to starting as a want-to-be bioinformatician. But starting in at the group, I faced like different challenges, and so I was used to work in a small group with my own research project, and while I have collaborated with other groups, but when I arrived at the group, and especially in the group of Ferran Sanz, They were involved in several projects, so the group was running different projects, and many of those projects were multidisciplinary, so they combined groups around Spain, or even also some of them from researchers from different European countries. And the most challenging was that they were like projects that combine different expertise to address like big challenges in health and in bioinformatics. So for me, that was quite new. And I had to adapt and actually to learn to work in this new context. So one thing I want to say here is that, well, of course, this is really an excellent opportunity for young researchers for networking. So it's a good opportunity to new people from other places, and to work with other people. Something that also I learned, but really took me a little time to learn, is that, well, when I was at these meetings with different people that what you don't know, they are from different backgrounds and also from different countries, so there are cultural differences. You may think that, well, they understand each other very well. Everybody knows what is talking, all the people talking about, but this is not often the case, and it's important that you realize that, and that you're not afraid to ask questions, whatever silly your questions may appear to be. Because it's really difficult to communicate in this environment. So it's important that you realize that at the beginning and really work hard to make that the communication is fluid enough. And that for me was really difficult, but well, and something I think it's also a continuous learning process. But it's also important that you try to make an effort to explain what you do to another person, and especially if this is not a bioinformatician, or is not it's really far from your field of expertise. And also another thing that I experienced that I think was really interesting is that these people that are not working in actually what you do, or don't have your expertise, can give you really interesting insights. So it's important to be open to these comments and to listen to them. So in general, I think it's really a very fruitful experience to be part of these projects. So one of the other challenges that I faced by joining the integrative biomedical informatics groups back in 2005 with Ferran was that, well, he said, okay, we are working on all these projects, but I really want you to focus on text mining. So we have some projects that that the foundation is to develop text mining tools to extract information from publications. We are now working in a tool that extracts or aims to identify SNPs, so genetic variation from publications. So and this has already started. So, but the person that is working has left the group. So I need you to focus on this and finish this development, or publish the paper, and put the tool in a web application. And I say, okay. So I was like, well, this was really difficult for me, because first, I was not really aware of what text mining was. So in the master, we actually didn't have much about this. This was at that time more from computer science and engineering field. And I was really afraid of taking this challenge, this research line. But, well, I said, why not? So I was quite insecure because, well, I was just starting as a bioinformatician. I have not a background in computer science as some of my colleagues in the master. I was coming from biology, so I felt that that maybe I was not the right person to really make a contribution here. But okay, I take the chance. And I think it's important that we take this like risk in when we are changing or making a career move. Even though maybe the field that you are working at that moment is not maybe the right or the one that you really most like, but I think it's an excellent opportunity to gain new skills, to gain experience in fact and learn new things. So by working on this, I learned really how to code, to write my own programs, to develop web applications that will go public and were used. And also it was good for me to really explore this new area, to think about how I could contribute to this based my background, based my expertise, and based and think about the new skills that I would need to acquire to really contribute here. It also was interesting because this also was in the context of projects in which we collaborated with other groups. So I could collaborate with other groups in the development of these tools, and this was really also nice. And this led to the publication of several papers. At the beginning, I was not the main author, but then later on, I could publish as a main author, and later on as a principal science and corresponding author. And at the end, I really like it, and it became one of my main research interests. So I think it's good that we give us the opportunity to explore new topics and really take the chance to do this exploration. And now I want to explain you with an example that we was already mentioned in the introduction. That is one of the tools that we developed in the group. That is dissemination, because it serves me to go into some aspects that I want to touch later about dissemination, impact, and intellectual property protection. So to put you a little bit in context, so the DisGenet is a platform on disease genomics, and it aims to address some of the challenges we believe are current in this area, in which we have a lot of information regarding the genomic variants that are linked to diseases, and this is because of the advances in next generation sequences and related technologies, and also the open science movement. So this information is available in databases, in repositories, but there is also the problem of data silos. So all this data is scattered in different repositories, and if you actually want to have the complete landscape of genomic variants or genes associated to a disease, you really need to go to all of each databases, extract information, combine them, and it's really a cumbersome task for the end user. And this is related also with a lack of interoperability of the data. So you as bioinformaticians, you know that you need data that is standardized and to in order to connect information from different data sets. And it's also important in this field of disease genomics to put this information in the context of other experiments, so and other or experiments in animal model of diseases or functional experiments, to actually make sense of the data and interpret in this case, the impact of genomic variation in health and disease. And last but not least, and this is also very much related with text mining, and that's why I was also really interested in this topic, is because so databases that are curated or developed by experts actually cannot cope with the speed by which publications are generated in this area and in any area of biomedicine. And you have here some numbers that some estimations that more than 8,000 publications are published each month on disease genomics. So DisGenet aims to address these challenges by providing, a database that contains a comprehensive catalog of disease genes and variants for all human diseases. So cover all disease areas, and also address the problem of interoperability by providing standardized and annotated data with standard ontologies and terminologies to support different applications in genomic medicine and drug research and development. And so DisGenet has the database, but also provides a set of tools that allows access and analysis of the data. And you can see here some of these tools that are available to interrogate the data, that is open and is free to use. But, well, this is, so we started this project, let's say in 2007, 2018, but we didn't start like, let's make DisGenet. So this didn't happen like that, and I think that does not happen in many for many tools or databases. So to give you a little bit of the history of this, we were involved in a research project that was focused on drug adverse reactions. And our role in this project was to develop bioinformatic tools that allows us to unravel the mechanisms, so the molecular mechanisms that are underlying drug adverse reactions. So for that, we needed information on the genes that were associated to these adverse reactions, so these diseases that are caused by drugs. And at that time, we started searching for the databases that were available, that were OMIM, UniProt, PharmGKB, and I think was CTD. So there were the databases that were open and that we could use to extract this information. And we realized that no single database contained the data that we wanted, and we actually need to extract data from each of these databases and integrate it. So we did that. And we started this for the set of diseases that were the focus of the projects, that were some diseases related with cardiac toxicity, like QTL prolongation of the electrocardiogram output, or some liver disease related to toxicity and kidney disease. But then we extended for all the disease classes. And in that way, we started with like the first version of the database that we later on called DisGenet. And here you see like some of the things that we then developed. So at 2010, we published the first paper, and at that time, DisGenet was launched as a Cytoscape plugin, because we were working also with network science approaches, and we provided the database actually as a network of diseases and their associated genes. And over the years, we developed different tools and more data, and we embrace like different technologies like link open data, semantic web, and after following the request of users or the needs of different projects, we make the project grow. And at some moment around 2017 and later, we started to receive requests from the pharmaceutical industry to use the data for their internal research or internal development. And due to license issues of the database that I will explain later, and after a long process, we decided to actually found a company that could provide a solution to the industry. And that's when the company, the spin-off company, VIII Bioinformatics, was launched with our colleagues in the group. And later on, we are releasing the commercial product, but also we continue in the research group with the development of the DisseNet public platform. As you can imagine, this is really a long story. So we started more than 10 years ago, and really is the result of work from many people. So this originated in the research group. And actually, the team that is actively working in this DisseNet is Janet Pinheiro, Juan Manuel Ramirez, Josep Sauch, and Ferran and myself. But the several people were really contributed during the whole process, and this work was actually the PhD thesis of 3 persons of the group, and it's really a process. You really need to find a way to have all these people contributing and maintaining the tool, because at some point you start with research database, and then you evolve as providing services to others, so outside your group, outside your network of collaborators, and open it to the community. And that's why I want to start to talking about dissemination and impact. So this was part of a process. So as we started with this research project, and then over the years, and then we realized that it was gaining recognition. So it started to be used. So you can, here I'm showing like the citations of the publications that describe DisseNet over the years. And you can see at the beginning we have nearly no citations. So we were not known. Now nobody were using us. But then we started to get some recognition, and it's also to see that it's a process that you evolve. So you start providing new tools, providing solutions to users, to different applications, and then you see that this is accepted, and people start to find the tool useful, and actually we have really large community of people that actually use and cite the work for different applications in genomics, in investigating mechanisms of disease, in research projects related to drug target identification, comorbidity studies, and many other different applications. And also it was important for us to first to like obtain the recognition of the organization Elixir as one of the recommended interoperability resources, so to allow our tool to be easily connected with other resources, and also that these some core Elixir resources, so databases that are widely used, are actually linking to your resource, and here are some examples, or actually use your data. So this also provides you more users, but also they provide you feedback, and you can actually fine-tune or even improve your application. I'm pretty sure that you are aware that you actually have to aim to have scientific publications in high impact journals or Q1, and also the topic of authorship. This is very important for your career, to be able to access to fellowships and scholarships. But when you are developing bioinformatic tools, and by this I mean databases, web tools, code, or data sets, you can actually disseminate them using other channels. And for that, you have code repositories, tool registries, even the web platform that you develop. You can make it attractive, and you can promote this through social media channels in order to get it known in the community, to gain users, and have a community of users, and have feedback from them. And also what I already mentioned, the collaboration or with other tools to reach other audiences, and also to improve your tools. And when we are talking about these other ways of sharing your research, it's important that you consider how, if you can have a measure of the users, the impact that it have. So if you are building a web interface, this is quite straightforward. You can use Google Analytics. So it's really very easy to include the code of this to track users and track behavior of users. So they provide a lot of very advanced ways to monitor web use. I'm not an expert on this. We merely use track number of users and sessions, and you can see here from the beginning, or really the early times of DisGenet, we really had really small number of users, and how these actually have grown over the years, and actually we have more than, or nearly 70,000 users of the web. And there are many ways that you can actually see how accepted or not is your tool. In the case of Cytoscape that we build this DisGenet app, they provide a number of downloads. Or if you are working in R and building R packages, and you upload this in Bioconductor, you can also have the statistics of the downloads. But there are other code repositories that are actually not providing this information. So and we have some of our code in this kind of repositories, and this is like a shame, because you don't have this, you cannot track this the users actually use of your tool. So this is something you might see before choosing a code repository from the ones that are available. And then I want to briefly speak about intellectual property protection, and this is actually closely related with open data and the sharing of the research data and results. As you know, this is more and more a requirement from the funder agencies, and also from journals, and also if you are really interested to contribute to this open data movement, and also is related with the possibility to repeat the research that you do, and it's very much related with research quality. So when you are talking about this, you really need to think about defining a license to your data, to your tool, to your code. And this is something that is not covered when you study in the university. But I think this is really an important aspect, and for us, we have to learn it by ourselves, and then we have a consultant with experts. But it was really also a process to understand how to license, what to look at, and it's important because what you need to do is to really make clear for others what it can be done with your work and what cannot be done. So it's not enough to put your data publicly available, but you have to make these things clear. So the others have a clear understanding of what can be done and what cannot be done. So very briefly, in bioinformatics, there are licenses for software, for web servers and applications, for datasets and databases, and they vary according the intended use. And this is something that is that you need to think about when you start your project. And it's also very important to consider if you are using components or parts from third parties. So if you're building a code, if you're using libraries from other that were already there and that you are including in your code, because you have to check the licenses from these components and see how they influence the license that you are going to define to your own development. So this is really important aspect. In our case, for DisseNet, we actually had to do a lot of work in order to first figure out what kind of terms of use to use for, or to put for the DisseNet in a public domain when we make it public. It was, as I said, a learning process. We didn't do it right at the very beginning, but then we learn and we finally arrived to a more accurate term of use. And if you are thinking about starting a company or making your development to be used for commercial applications, it's really recommended that you ask experts, in this case lawyers that are experienced in IP protection in this area in bioinformatics. So for us, it was a really long process. We had to review the licenses for more than 30 different resources to figure out how they can be combined, and also the software and the know-how. And also it's important to define what you can do with your product and also what others can do with your product. And yeah, so for the last minutes, so I think we are almost running out of time, but in all this my experience, I found really important to have persons that actually guide you and show you how to work in these new fields, and especially when you work in this collaboratory projects with several teams. And for me, the figure was of course Ferran Sanz, that really showed me how to navigate these kind of collaborations. But also it was really important for me my PhD and advisor, that was Monica Vasquez Levin, and this is us in 1997 when I graduated the university, and later she became a friend, and we are really in touch over the years, and we still collaborate and have in different projects, and we actually mentor students together. And that's all I wanted to say today, and I'm really happy to take your questions, and thank you for your attention. Okay, turn my camera on.
Thank you very much, Lau. That was a really broad coverage of like bioinformatician's career, and I particularly found it interesting that you mentioned all the issues with the terms of use and the licensing, because I don't think it's so frequent maybe in research, but definitely something to keep in mind. And I think also more and more journals are asking you to provide the licenses of the software you're using. So great. So I'm going to start the discussion, and you have not talked so much about it, but I was wondering, so I think it's really great that we're seeing spin-off and startup companies on bioinformatics to be applied in the industry. So I was wondering, where do you see bioinformatic entrepreneurship in the maybe midterm or long-term future?
Well, I think there are a lot of opportunities. So we are living in a world of data, and the industry, the pharmaceutical industry is already on analyzing big data from anything that has to do with drug development, but also when you think about clinical trials, and when they put a product in the market, they want to analyze how this actually performs on patients. So you know that we are living in a world of data, and bioinformatics has a lot to do on that. So I think that there are plenty of opportunities as startup companies, but also in the big industry, actually analyzing and bringing insight from data. So what we can do as bioinformatician, I think, is this role to bring insight into data.
Great, thank you. And I'm going to share now some questions from the audience. So we have this one from Javier Lanillos that says, thank you so much for your talk. From a private company point of view, are licenses the challenge to get access and use data from public repositories, like an example of a well-known database? Thank you.
Licenses to get access and use. Well, so it's important to understand. So that our licenses on data that allows you to use in a commercial setting. So, and this is something we actually learned through this process. So there are databases that have a license that allow to use within a commercial setting or for commercial exploitation, and there are many databases that actually allow you to make this use, and others that not. So for instance, all the databases that are provided by the ABI are open and allow commercial exploitation. So any database that you can find on the EBI allows this. In our case, in the case of DisGenet, it does not allow commercial exploitation because we integrate databases that do not allow this, and that is important to consider. So you need to, if you are integrating components from others, your license has to be compliant with this, with the third-party licenses, and this is really important to take into account.
Thank you. And we have another question from Sarah Sherman, and she's asking if you have any specific advice for PhD students currently making the transition from wet lab to computational biology or mathematics.
Yeah, well, I think I talked this a little bit about. Well, advice, I share with you some of the challenges that I faced. Don't be afraid of jump to new research areas. And yes, you need to study a lot and to experience a lot. For instance, at the beginning, I was when I was trying to learn coding, I was like reading. Well, there were not so many online courses as there are now. So I have a book and I read the book, but then I realized that you really need to start doing your code and having something to work on and to develop in order to really learn how to program. So this is something.
Getting your hands dirty.
Yeah, getting your heart dirty. So yeah.
Great. And we have one more question from Luis. So he's asking, what would you recommend to one PhD student that would like to go to work on private companies, if they should rather focus on non-technical skills, or what is a bit your views on the topic? And thanks for your talk.
Yeah, well, it depends. So I think it's different if you are working in a large corporation that, well, I cannot give you insights there because I don't have experience personal. I know from other people, so that it's quite different to work in a large company compared to academia or small companies or even startup. In a startup, the non-technical skills that you need to have is that, yes, you have to be ready to do anything because usually, so the teams are small, 1, 2, 3 people. You have to do anything, and also you need to respond quickly. So times in the company are short, timings are shorter than in the academia. If you are already interacting with clients, you really need to respond to them. Maybe the focus of the work change quite rapidly according to the business interest. So you need to be flexible. You need to be ready to do different things. And that's my experience in working in the small company for 1 year. Yeah.
Great. I think we have some more minutes for questions. So I have Adrian here. And he's wondering, what do you think private companies prefer, bachelor, master's, or PhD graduates?
I think it depends. I think it depends of the role you will play in the company. I mean, and the degree of responsibility the job actually requires. So, and you don't always need a PhD degree. I think it's more valued the experience that you may have, and maybe for developing a web application, you don't need a PhD degree. No, so it depends, I think, on the profile. But this is my thought. I don't know, and as I said, I don't have experience in large corporations. But from my perspective, well, we have people with PhD degree, in the group and also in the company, but also people that do not have a PhD degree, and it's fine.
Yeah, maybe depends on the position or what you're looking for.
On what you're looking for. Yeah.
Okay, great. So I think I will ask you one last question before we finish, because after all, we are all students here, and we're all applying to either PhD positions or soon maybe to a postdoc position, things like that. And you have read, I figure, many of these applications, and you have to go through them and filter the candidates. And so from your experience, what are the things that you consider to be more important when you are looking at student or postdoc applications in order to be a successful candidate?
Well, I think the letter in which you address to the person for the position has to be really well worked out and clearly written, and well, I have received different kind of letters, some like not very well figure out with spelling errors and so on. So, and this is really make a bad impression. So it's good that you take time to really review and figure out and read it again and again, and maybe make it read by another person to really see if what you want to say it's understood. And they have to be concise and clearly say what you want, what you are, what are your studies, what are your interests, and what you think you can contribute to the position you are applying. So I think these are the most important aspects of the like the cover letter or the interest letter and the presentation. So if the presentation is not like polished, it's not a good sign. And also for the CV, I think it's the same. I think it has to be concise and really highlight what you want to show. What are the more important things that you bring. Also that you have clearly identified one or two references that the other people can contact. And yeah, but I think sometimes the cover letter says a lot about the person. I think it devotes time to make it a good cover letter.
Yeah, at least from my experience. It was. So thank you very much, Laura, for being here with us today. I think we really enjoyed your talk.
Thank you very much.
I think it was quite inspirational and good to listen to these positive messages.
Awesome.
So thank you very much. And I will end this session now and see you all in a couple of minutes with our next host, Tamara, who's going to announce the winner of the challenges we had.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Thank you.